Alright guys, gals, and everything in between. Another week down, another Better Call Saul episode. Alright guys, this one was called Hero, and it definitely follows the motif of Hero. We start with another flashback. I like that we get these flashbacks, so we're seeing into his previous life, and we're seeing that he's kind of a sketchy guy. I thought that was hilarious. He's walking with this drunk guy, and they're talking, and they see a passed out dude on the ground. And then it turns out that Saul Goodman is like haggling him, and I'm like, oh, see, he wasn't always like a straight shooter. I mean, obviously we saw him in jail last time, so there's that. But I don't know. It's so fun to see like this previous Saul Goodman. But in our timeline that we're currently at, they just found the money, and they basically are trying to bribe Saul for it. And Saul's holding on to his integrity, and you can see it's wearing on him because they're offering him thousands upon thousands of dollars to cover it up. And Saul's like, no, I don't do that. And then you see him thinking, and he goes, but with lawyer fees, I could take a chunk if you were to, per se, bring me on as your lawyer. And they tell him, no, you're a lawyer that criminals would want. And he's kind of looking at it, and I thought that was hilarious because I sat there and said, you guys are criminals. You stole like a couple $1 million from like people, and but you're not a criminal kind of thing. And we get back, of course, they let Nacho go, which I think is funny because that means in a way Saul Goodman is representing both parties right now, and I think that's great. He's almost like a double agent. He's working both sides of the table, but Nacho's on to him, and I know this is going to come back to bite him. It didn't in this episode, but I know it's coming back. Not a lot happened in this episode in terms of major plot developments. What we did see is that Saul did get paid, so presumably he is working for them. And so what does he do? He goes and rips off his competitors and makes this billboard of himself, and he looks so smarmy in it, and it's so great. And of course they're gonna legally fight it, and he's like, well, bring it, I'm Saul Goodman. And he's trying to get represented on the news as like the little guy, but no one's gonna represent him. Oh lordy. I loved seeing this with Saul Goodman because he's not a normal, everyday person. All of his colleagues right now are telling him he's doing something stupid by trying to rip these people off. And he's like, no, I can do what I want to do. And he knows, I think, deep down that he can't, but he's gonna dang well try. I love some of the little Easter egg references that they've sprinkled throughout this episode. With, like, Mike Ehrmantraut, he has him in Saul Goodman's like, if you ever need any help in the future, like, I got your back, and Mike's just kind of like, uh-huh. And I'm like, referencing stuff that the audience would get. I like it. I love it. I have a lot of enthusiasm for Mike Ehrmantraut closing a sliding door on people. It's still cool. And then when he's getting his suit made and all that stuff, he's looking around at some of the nice shirts, and one of them is the orange one that he usually wears, and then he puts the tie to it, and I'm like, oh, it's one of Saul's outfits from Breaking Bad. I love it. Because, we got to eventually see him become that. And in the beginning of the episode, I really liked that they joked, and you could kind of see it. Where he's like, what's your name? And he's like, Saul Goodman. And you're just kind of like, it's all good, man. Saul's got your back. And it's just like little references that the show brings out. It's not beating you over the head with references to it's in a universe with another show. Unlike some shows that ruin complete vibes. I'm looking at Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Back at the ranch, Saul needs protection for himself. And so he's sitting there and goes, well, what am I going to do? But we don't see this. He's bribing some college students to film an article for him. And he's going on doing his thing, and what do we see? A construction worker falls from his billboard sign. and they're hanging on by that rope thing, and Saul's like, oh my god, and he just throws his coat down, he's like, call 911, and he runs over and he's climbing up the thing, and it's intense, and it's cool, and it's awesome, and I don't know, you're feeling the urgency, and Saul gets up there, and he rescues him, and it's awesome. And I'm like, oh yes, here we go. And then what do we see? They shake hands. And I was like, oh, Saul Goodman. Saul Goodman, he has not done a single honest thing in this show yet. And it just makes me love him even more for it. Seriously, he has not done a single honest thing in this show. He has manipulated people. He's extorted people. He's framed people. I mean, he is just using his wit and getting attention. And what does he get? All the attention in the world. And that one preacher from Last Exorcism, the actor Patrick Fabian, Patrick Fabian's just like, you know, this is a marketing ploy. And that one blonde girl just says, we know, like, everybody loves a hero, though, which is true, because now the media sees Saul, Jimmy, as someone that they can rally behind, which means now he's in the limelight. So he's a player on the chessboard now, much more prevalently. And I think this was an excellent way to put him on the boards, because it's not like all of a sudden he's just really good at being a lawyer. No, he's really good at extorting people, which shows that that is why he fits in this criminal underworld kind of support. And I think that that's definitely going to play out, that instead of seeing the courtroom drama of Better Call Saul, which I bet you we're going to see probably closer to the last 2 or 3 episodes, but what I think you're really going to see a good portion of throughout this show's lasting power is Saul Goodman using his wit to outsmart different parties without knowing that they're related to each other. So Saul's going to work with the good guys and the bad guys, and I think he's just going to use his wit, and they're not going to have any idea that he's playing the parts. Guys, I know this video was shorter, but there wasn't as much to talk about this time. This was really him introducing himself into the limelight. The brother has now seen it. That was a hilarious scene, by the way. Was when the brother decides that for some reason he didn't get his paper, so he grabs his foil blanket and runs out to go grab it. That scene. Because it's all trippy and they're, you know, doing this weird kind of stuff with the camera. And then you just see the normal thing, and it was absolutely hilarious. I absolutely loved it, and I don't know, there isn't as much to talk about on this episode, but I've got more videos coming to you, of course. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you do. I hope you enjoy these. Guys, gals, and everything in between, I will see you next time.